welcome back to Drum Pop. I got some special guests with me in the studio today. I have Kyle Kipp.
Hey there.
So going to do a Johnny Cash cover. And then I have my brother-in-law, Chris, that's going to stand in on bass.
Hello.
Let me show you what things we got set up for you today. On the amp, this is a Fender Deluxe, and we've got a Sennheiser 421, and we also have an EV635A. If you are miking a Fender Deluxe amp or in some other amps, always make sure and feel where the actual speaker is, because the speaker is off to the side of this. It's not center. And then I like to mic off to the side a little bit too, and aim it into it. So these are both in the same position. We're going to be able to contrast the difference between them. And so we're on the drums. We got a Shure SM81, and we're doing a mono overhead. And then on the toms, we've got just some CAD tom mics. We've got the standard industry SM57 on the snare, and then we've got a Sennheiser 421 on the bass drum. And I also have an Audio Technica over on the front side of the bass to capture a little bit of extra attack. So this would be for like a live broadcast. We've got two different types of microphones that we're going to be able to contrast and compare. We're going to have a CAD condenser mic, and then we're going to have the SM58, the ultimate live microphone. And then just for a little bit, we're going a little bit of sound division. We have this door here, and it's got glass, and it's going to be able to protect us just a little bit from the cymbal ambience and the snare, so we don't have that much bleed into these microphones. And we're going to be able to test that between these two microphones when we listen back. So let me show you what's going on backstage here. First of all, we've got the two guitars here. There's the 421, and then there's the guitar EV. That's the 635A. And then we have the condenser mic, and then the SM58. And so let me show you. I do have some plugins going on and the reverb, and I've actually automated this already too. So before we play it, let's solo out just the guitar, and we'll look at those first, and then I'll bypass all these plugins. All right, and we'll listen to them dry. Let's listen to first just the EV635A. And now the 421. So less bleed with the EV, which is strange because I would think there would be a little bit more with it. And then the 421 has more tone, more lower end especially. So what I did is I liked, especially after adding in my filters here and things to, like I said, lather it up in the mix. So like when I added these in, this mic responded to all those frequencies and the changes a lot more than the 421 did naturally, without having to boost and kick things too much. And just to show you what I've done, I have the guitar rig from Native Instruments, and I just went to Styles Country and double clicked Comp Twang Country here, and that's pretty much it. And then just crank the volume here. Just double click Crunchy and crank the volume a little bit, and that's pretty much all I did. And then I compared it with the same settings on the 421, and I'll show you what my final outcome, what I ended up doing. But let's listen now to the EV, and then I put some Slate Digital products on here. I think I grabbed one of their templates and then twisted some things just a little bit to have less compression, I think, and things, and squashed it a little less. And then the EQ, I pulled down the 3K a little bit, and the 200 areas a little bit, 200, 100. So just to slope it, and then I did a roll off because why not? I usually do on the electric guitar. And so that's what's going on with the EQ with it. And a lot of other EQ happens with the amp emulations and mods that we're doing. Now, this reverb is off, but let's click it on and just have it just a little bit, because I have a space reverb going on here inside one of its bus sends. So I have a spring reverb going on with the Avid Space. So I'm going to enable those as well. And then this reverb here is just I put a tiny bit in it just to add room. And it's just a generic, the room reverb that I have here. And I used the, it's called Big Room, Amsterdam Theater School. So that's an Avid Space. So I threw that in there. And that's what I use for everybody, just to put them in a room. So let's now hear the guitar with these changes we've done. So that's cool. So that's cool, huh? So like, then what I did is I played the 421 and on this one, I put a clean one on here. I think I liked the Twang Country Clean. And then I'll enable it. And then I tried the Avid, guitar amp, and I didn't, the 11 light, I really didn't care for it. I messed around with some settings on it, but I have it disabled there. And then pretty much the same VMR as our other one, and then a little bit of spring reverb on it, and then I add that in. So here, we'll solo them both, and then I'll add in the 421. It just adds a little bit of thickness, because the 421 had a little bit more rich thickness tone to it, and then it has some attack to it too. So let's add that in slowly. Hear that? And then I hear the cymbals coming in, so I just put it in just until that bleed starts to occur. And some might frown upon this a little bit, but what I did is I panned it off just a little bit so we won't have any phasings going on. I mean, I could inverse it too, but so I just panned it off just a little bit, and I panned the EV off just a tiny amount to the right there. And then with the two of them playing together, it adds a little more fullness to it. And so that's what I did with the guitars, and that was the comparison between the two. For this particular take, I liked the EV635A obviously more, but that's up to preference, right? There's a lot of you that could probably work with the 421. I mean, we could all work with the 421 on the guitar amp, but I liked the EV on it, and it sounded cool, especially with the settings on it. And don't worry about those distorted cymbals; they're gone once we have the actual drum overheads and the kick and snare going. Anyhow, speaking of the drums, let's look at the bass drum here too, because I had the two mics on there, and I had the kick and the I had the kick and then the kick front going. Remember, I tossed a Audio Technica on the front of it, and then a 421 was on the resonant side of the bass drum. So now let's hear these two playing together. So here's just the bass drum with the 421. And it's nice and thick, and I got a little EQ going on it with a little boost around the 2K, and then a boost here in the lows areas around 90. So I got some EQ going on, and then a little bit of Slate Digital with it. I think I took one of their power, I took the power kick settings and then dimmed some stuff down. And so that's there, but it doesn't have the attack, and that's what happens when you're miking a vintage bass drum, where the head is solid, you don't have the hole on it and everything, and you don't want to disturb that because it has such a good sound in the room. So anyhow, that's why we have the front mic, so now we have the attack. And you got a little bit of snare bleed in there, but it's going to be okay. And here's just the front, because I did this. So we can bypass that. It's still a decent result, but I want just the tick off of this. So I did that. It brings the snare a little bit out more too, so that'll be okay. And so there's the bass drum. So now let's get all those drums going. The overhead, the snare. That's where I like to start. A lot of people start at different places. I start with my drums, get the kick and the snare solid together, add in the overheads. But with this particular project, I did choose which vocal I wanted to use and then kind of modeled things around that. So now let's move on to that. So here's the SM58 and here's the condenser. Now let's bypass everything here because this makes a big difference. Okay, so let's listen to the SM58 dry by itself here. Why you that whistleblower, I just hang my head and cry. Yeah. And now let's listen to the CAD dry. Why you that whistleblower, I just hang my head and cry. Yeah. So substantial difference amount of bleed between the two. Now the SM58, that is doing its job. It is the live microphone for a reason. The amount of bleed in this and the SM58 track is it's far less than the condenser. We knew there'd be a ton in the condenser mic. However, in going this approach where you're using a condenser mic as a room mic that doubles as a vocal mic, you're able to get a lot different clarity from the vocals that you are with the 58. So they've both been automated, as you see. That's like, handling the gain instead of the compressor, because you can't over compress when you're using these in the room. So now let's listen to the 58 with a little bit of compression and the EQ and then a little room on it. I'm going to solo this for you. Why you that whistleblower, I just hang my head and cry. Yeah. Okay, and now the condenser mic wet. Why you that whistleblower, I just hang my head and cry. Yeah. So just a little bit of EQ, and we were able to take out lots of cymbal noise and room noise that was in that mic track. And I like the quality and the clarity that I got out of the condenser mic more than the 58. And the 58 got moved a little bit too, which happens sometimes. And so he wasn't singing directly into the 58, if you notice in the video as well. So I was able to get a cleaner performance out of the CAD too. So I embraced it and I said, this is what I have to work with. And so I did some EQ changes here to it and was able to bring out a lot of things. And then I didn't over compress it and did some slight EQ adjustments with it here. And then now let's listen to the CAD in the mix with everybody else. And let's mute the 58. And you'll see I wrote it so that it brings the CAD condenser into the mix and uses it as a room mic when the instruments are playing. And then when the vocals play, I bring it up and make it thick and in front. So here we go. And see, that's kind of like our room mic. So I'm going to mute it out too so you can see what happens. See, and it's kind of like it's just adding a little bit of room, a little bit of air to it, but it's not that much of a difference, and that's a good thing, right? Because now what we've done is built the mix around this condenser mic, room mic that we were having the vocals sing into. So any of the bleed that's through that, now we're basing the mix kind of around that. And so it's not making that much of a change. So we're able to bring it in and out a little bit as the performance goes, and it doesn't make that much of a change to it. So now that you've seen what's going on behind the scenes, let's take a look at the performance.
My mama told me, son, always be a good boy and don't ever play with guns. But I shot a man in Nipsey just to watch him die. While that whistle blowing, I just hang my head and cry. Yeah. They're probably drinking whiskey and smoking fat cigars. And I know I had it coming, I know I can't be free. But those people keep moving, and that's what tortures me. Yeah, yeah, yeah.